Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to First and Short, your first place to get short bits of college football news and analysis. Today is October 26th, Sunday. We are just wrapping up week 9. We didn't see a lot of upsets this weekend, but it was definitely exciting from a comeback perspective. A lot of teams came back from the depths of losing to go ahead and win the game. So that was very exciting to watch. It'll be very exciting to talk about. This is Aaron. I am Mashfik. We will get into all of that in a moment here. Just want to start by plugging our channel. If you could please subscribe. Most of our viewers haven't subscribed to us yet, so it would be great if you could just press that button and help us out. We're also on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify Podcasts. Those have been growing as well, so very appreciative of you guys listening to us on the way to work, on the way to the gym, or whatever else it is. We appreciate all the growth. So, Aaron, like I said, this weekend I saw a lot of daring comebacks, so I just want to, talk about those. I know you went to the Georgia Tech game, so I would love to hear a breakdown from your end on that. The late night game last night, the Texas A&M game, definitely one of the best teams in America. We're going to break them down as well. I thought Marcel Reed had his Heisman moment, so we're gonna watch some videos there. And so before we get started, Aaron, how was your experience at the Georgia Tech game?
Sure, yes. I mean, it was homecoming in the flats, right? We saw fans, young and old, all around campus, slowly getting to the stadium. And I've been to a few Georgia Tech games before, but this one felt a little different. The energy was there in this one. Apparently, it was a sold-out game, and I think that was the first time that happened in a while.
That's great. Brent Key's turning this around.
Yeah, exactly. And then you could hear like murmurs of fans, in the stadium saying things like, it's usually never this crowded, or the space is usually not packed here, right? And so everybody's bought in, everybody's coming to the games now. And the football team, they didn't disappoint. They proved to be super dominant against Syracuse, right? Some takeaways that I saw, at my live game experience on offense, all I saw was Haynes King, and some more Haynes King, right? He was the team's leading rusher and passer again.
Yep.
That's common for this offense right now. He accounted for 5 touchdowns. So I think he had 3 passing and 2 rushing. That Georgia Tech offense, man, he's able to do this because they are just so good at misdirection, right? They don't have the biggest offensive front, but they just know how to take advantage of a team that's not disciplined and slips up that one time. If you're out of position, if you're reading wrong and not staying home and staying disciplined, they're going to take advantage. And, we're used to Georgia Tech doing this with the triple option and running the ball and being that effective. But when have you heard of, a Georgia Tech team going 25 for 31 and passing for over 300 yards?
Yeah, I mean, that we haven't heard of that in a long time, and I imagine a lot of that opens up because of how dialed in the defenses are to the running game, and especially like what is Haynes King about to do with his legs.
Exactly. And the bottom line is, I mean, you can't sleep on his arm either. They have a quarterback who can truly get the ball to his receivers and tight ends when he needs to, right?
Yeah, I don't remember how many stars he had coming out of high school, but people forget this was a starting quarterback at Texas A&M. Like, I understand Georgia Tech is where it is on the pecking order. He was a starting quarterback at Texas A&M. So, he has a lot of talent with his arm.
Exactly.
You have to play at Texas A&M.
Yep. I mean, so head coach Brent Key for Georgia Tech, he has this team 8-0, right? This is the first time they're 8-0, I believe, since 1966. That is a crazy statistic. For the rest of their conference schedule games, I mean, they seem pretty manageable. But we can't forget about, what's inevitably coming at the end of the season, right? They have to face Georgia, and that will be their last.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. They're proven to be, a true competitor this year in every game they play in. But they have that game as their last regular season game, and there's potential that they could be playing in the ACC Conference Championship game against somebody who's just to the same level of caliber. So we're about a month away.
I would say more than potential. I think they're there. Who do you think they'll play if they get there? You think they'll play like a Miami, or who do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, right now I think it's between, the Miami and maybe Virginia. I don't know if Virginia, I think they won
Yeah,
this weekend,
they're
right?
still pretty up there in the rankings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it'll be against one of those two teams, and I mean, both look to be true to, being a competitor this year.
Glad the ACC is providing some excitement
Yes.
this year. Yeah.
Mhm.
I did want to, so yeah, appreciate that. Sounds like you had a great time there. I'll include some of the videos you sent as B-roll during that segment, but it's always, man, I gotta say, Georgia Tech has one of the best views of like, you've got the downtown skyline right there. One of the best
Mhm.
views in college football. So let's move on. We actually haven't done a Saturday segment in a few weeks, but I mentioned there was a lot of comebacks yesterday, which is great if you're on that side of the team. But the other side of a good comeback is a team who had a terrible choke job. So, and that can lead to a Saturday, right? So, I wanted to talk about a few teams, and I wanted to see who you would nominate as the Saturday team of the week from yesterday. So, and we'll start there. So, South Carolina, of course, they gave up an 8-point lead in the fourth quarter to Alabama.
Yeah.
They were in the lead for a long time in that game. The margin just wasn't big enough for them. Oklahoma, they came back from 12 down. They took the lead by one and then proceeded to let Ole Miss score 9 more points, in Norman, to eventually lose the game there. Mississippi
Mhm.
State, they had a huge lead on Texas at home, 17 points with 12 minutes left. It was going to be their first SEC win in over 2 years. And then, of course, late at night last night, LSU looked like they had the lead going into the second half, but at large time they just looked like they were out there just doing cardio. Brian Kelly, I mean, is his time done? They were chanting, fire Brian Kelly, in the stands. I know we've been talking about the whole season, but last night just seemed like a nail in the coffin. He was yelling at his assistant coaches. The 10 LSU fans that were left, like I said, they were yelling for him to be fired. So out of those four examples of comeback situations, who would you say had the Saturday?
Sure, sure. So, I mean, Mississippi State collapsing like that definitely gives them, the Saturday honors of week 9. A 17-point lead in the fourth quarter, and, now extending to your conference losing streak to 16. I mean, that's just terrible, right?
Can't argue with you
Um,
there.
yeah, and so you could tell, Mississippi State, they were completely out of answers when Ryan Niblett was able to tie the game with a 79-yard punt return touchdown. Like, just
There were a couple of punt. I saw a Texas. There was a punt return in the Texas A&M game, and
yep.
then one here. That was another theme that I kept seeing yesterday.
Yeah. And so with this, it was what a storybook ending it was for, Texas in this game. The day started with some article mentioning that Sark, is interested in an NFL job, possibly with the Titans. And then, it ended with your starting quarterback getting hurt in overtime, your backup coming in and scoring a game-winning touchdown that had to go to video review, right? So just crazy waves of up and
Yeah,
down during the day. Yeah.
exciting day to be a Longhorn for sure. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought Mississippi State had great execution the first 3 quarters of the game. They got a lot of pressure on Arch, made him throw some really bad throws. Their receivers had a few drops. I saw Wingo drop it at least 2 or 3 times. Mississippi State, they sacked him 5 times. Mississippi State's passing attack led by Blake Shapen, it was on point. He actually had more yards than Texas did. And one thing you have to do as an underdog here, they scored in the red zone. They went 4 for 4 in the red zone, so
Wow.
they got points. As need or not as needed, but when they needed them, when they had to get the points, they got them.
Mhm. No, yeah, it's almost like, the game script, it only went for those 3 quarters of just great execution, which is
Yeah,
absolutely crazy, right? But, I
yeah,
also, I have to credit Texas for coming back alive at this moment, right? I mean, being down that much and not feeling like, you're out of it yet,
yeah,
crazy. Arch was connecting with his receivers. He doesn't get any credit all season, but he was doing it, at the latter end of the game. And the defense started making some crucial stops, and it helped them score 24 unanswered points in the fourth quarter and overtime. So just a
yeah.
miraculous comeback.
Yep. So last episode, we thought Mississippi State was going to win that one. One of the few that we got wrong. But we did get our underdog pick correct. They lost by 7, and the underdog pick was 7.5 points. So we're good there. We're back to 500. We're 5-5 now. So basically 0-0. We're starting the season over. So all good there. Continuing on this theme of comebacks, it worked for some teams. It didn't work for others. Alabama was a surprising one. We thought it would be close. The game was surprising. We thought it would be close with South Carolina, but definitely did not see South Carolina being in the driver's seat in the fourth quarter, controlling their own destiny. Number 4, Alabama at South Carolina. Alabama won 29-22. Alabama Tide, Crimson Tide just keeps rolling. I thought it was interesting that, near the end of the game, South Carolina just let Jeremy Bernard just walk in. I understand that's kind of high football IQ. It gave South Carolina another chance on offense, but still, it's a little jarring to see. South Carolina, they did everything they needed to do as a huge underdog to win this game. I thought they controlled the time of possession battle. They capitalized on that muff punt that Alabama had, but a couple of mistakes of their own, especially on their offense. You had the early pick 6 early in the game, and then late in the game, Lenore Sellers, he fumbles the ball. That's essentially what prevented that upset. It canceled out those good things that they had going. Highlight of this game for me, Jeremy Bernard. He's really just the Swiss Army knife for this team. Ty Simpson can always look to him to have Jeremy Bernard pull through for this team. He scored actually he scored both the game-tying touchdown reception and also the game-winning 25-yard touchdown run on a direct snap. And so, he accounted for the last 12 points in the last 2.5 minutes of the game.
Yeah. Hey, man, I mean, you talk about Jeremy Bernard. Shame on us and the college football world for not, acknowledging who he could be this year potentially for the Tide. It was all about Ryan Williams and, in his sophomore slump, sluggish type year, there's just another guy that stepped up and has been true, game in and game out through this season. So shout out to
Real
Jeremy
gamer.
Bernard.
Real gamer.
Yep. A comeback that didn't work was for number 13 Oklahoma. They hosted number 8 Ole Miss. My key thing that I took away from this game is Lane Kiffin backs down from nobody. I know some of you guys, you saw the interview where he was just ready to jaw at anybody, any coach, player, anybody, right? Despite all the speculations going around with him potentially taking another job at Florida, it seems like he loves what he's doing in Ole Miss, and the fan base loves what he's doing as well. Ole Miss, they put up 431 yards on a top-rated Oklahoma defense.
Right.
I mean, that's outstanding, right? Trinidad Chambliss, I mean, he did his thing throughout the game. He had 315 passing yards. Oklahoma, they almost created this historic comeback. They scored 16 points in the third quarter, but Ole Miss, their defense stood tall in the fourth quarter, not allowing a single point to be scored in that entire fourth quarter. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, one thing that I thought was going to be the turning point of the game, Ole Miss, on their own 25, they went for it on 4th and 1. They didn't get it. In fact, I think they lost 10 yards. So really completely botched play. This happened in the third quarter. It could have been a huge momentum shifter. Luckily, Oklahoma only got a field goal there. But, I thought, oh, man, the Ole Miss is collapsing here. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was very interesting. But they got out of there alive, right? And so, I looked at the rest of their schedule, and I mean, the coast is almost clear, right? They don't face a single team on the rest of their schedule has at least a 500 record or better. So everybody is, pretty much mid to lower tier opponents, right? So my question is, should we punch their ticket to the playoffs already? I mean, they have one loss, and it's to Georgia.
Yeah, I think the SEC game is out of reach for them just because of where Texas A&M, Alabama, and then the Georgia tiebreaker is. but playoffs is definitely in contention for them. Yeah, they might. How does it work? They might host one or get to go to someone's campus, but I think that's a very good very good chance that they make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
dang, hold
and
on. Now that I think about it, because Tennessee might, I would say Tennessee's a playoff team too, but five
they got
SEC teams?
they got two
That's a lot.
losses though, but potentially, you know.
Oh, right, right, yeah,
But you got to consider Vandy. Vandy's a team with one loss right now. Yeah, it's it's very interesting what's going to happen at the end of this season for the
yeah,
SEC. But you know, nonetheless, playoff contentions are still pretty high. SEC championship contention, maybe not, but it's not the worst thing in the world if you miss the SEC championship and you still
yeah,
compete for a national title, right?
for sure.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. But enough about that game and the just the SEC. Let's go back out and take a broader look at some of the scores that we saw from Saturday, right? So, one score that caught my eye: Colorado at Utah. Oh my gosh, they took a beat down. They were shut out 43-0 in the first half, and then they lost this game 53-7. It's Coach Prime's worst loss at
Yeah,
Colorado. Yeah.
I saw him yelling at some defensive coordinator or something.
Hmm.
I think early in the first quarter when they started getting scored on.
Yeah.
Tough scene.
Yep. Tough seeing them like that. Yeah. Next on the list, we had the college game day game. Mizzou at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was able to edge past them and beat them late in the fourth quarter. That was a pretty impressive game.
I thought that game went exactly how we thought. Very defensive, very rush heavy,
Hmm.
low scoring. Low scoring just because of like how they like to play and where they are good at in defense.
Hmm.
Um, it was cool to see Vanderbilt edge past, like you said. I think Bo Prabula got hurt. I think he had to get carted off. Like his leg was maybe a long-term issue there, but um, yeah, good to see Vanderbilt. Will they move up? They might move up. Did someone in the
They
top 10
might.
lose? Yeah, they might move up.
Mhm. Yep. Next, Miami, they look to be back to normal. They rolled past Stanford this weekend, 42-7. Which was expected.
It was
And then
seven.
last,
I think it was 7-7 at the end of the first quarter, and I saw the score. I didn't watch this game, but I saw the score bug, and I was like, "Oh, is Miami about like is it happening?" But no,
no,
they
no.
look back to normal now.
Yep. Um, we saw South Florida take on Memphis, and they ended up losing as Memphis rallied back to win, 34-31. Like I said, I like whoever comes out of that game as a winner to be the team to potentially sneak into the playoffs. So, in
Yeah,
my
as the
eyes,
G5 team.
look for Memphis. I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think this is the other one that we got wrong last week. We thought it was going to be South Florida, which almost happened. Memphis just
yeah.
happened to win it right near the end.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Um, Next on the list, you got Michigan facing Michigan State. They were able to roll past their little brother again and make sure the Paul Bunyan trophy stays in Ann Arbor for the fourth year in a row. Yep. It was a
Nice.
big physical win by Michigan. They were getting back to their roots with a dominant game on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns, 276 rushing yards, right? So split between quarterback Underwood, Justice Haynes, and Jordan Marshall. And of course, there was a great performance by their defense, opening the game with, forcing a fumble.
Hmm.
I think Michigan, they have a lot of good pieces and they can build off of that, momentum moving forward. They just got to keep it together consistently week in out.
Yeah, moving forward, like the rest of this year, moving forward next year, like
Yeah.
spend the off season, like figure out where those holes are in your game now.
Yep.
Um, Maybe get some better receivers for Underwood, and they're rolling in the Big Ten next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Wanna cover one game that we saw last night. Number 3, Texas A&M going into a not so scary night game in Death Valley and beating number 20 LSU 49-25. 49-25. I know that's 24 points. That makes it sound a lot closer than it actually was. Like Texas A&M, they were doing whatever they wanted to the Tigers. And they've been doing that since last year, actually. In the last 2 games, Texas A&M, they've outscored LSU 66-13 in the second halves of these last 2 games. And if you're watching this rivalry, you might as well just tune in only after halftime, because that's when you'll see what the real story of the game is. LSU led in both games after the break, but since the start of the second half, last year, the Aggies, I don't know, they just have LSU's number, and they've been able to flip the switch and absolutely destroy LSU. In this game, LSU they led after the half, 18-14, and then Texas A&M, they were able to score 31 points before LSU's backup quarterback came in. I think Nussmeier had some injury. He was able to come in and score a touchdown in garbage time, basically. How did Texas A&M win this game? To me, came down to excellent play from Marcel Reed. He was decent through the air, 202 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions. But against an LSU defense like this, not that you expect it, but it can happen. But he did kill LSU with his legs. He had another 108 yards on the ground and 2 more touchdowns, rushing by himself. I wanted to take a look actually at a couple of plays and break down, with you, Aaron, how Marcel Reed might have had his Heisman moment.
Mm-hmm.
So on this first play here, it's going to be a scramble touchdown by Marcel Reed in the first quarter to kind of open up the game. On this kind of play, what are you seeing from Texas A&M side, and what are you seeing on LSU side on defense?
Sure. So Texas A&M, they're in a shotgun. They got the wide receivers out on the edge, so you got to protect, and spread out and be pass first in this, because it looks like they're pass first right now in this type of offense, right? So you only got 4 linemen down front, and you got 2 linebackers. So, you got to have your DBs out there ready to cover whoever. But it looks like, from this play, if you go ahead and run it, he's scrambling,
mm-hmm.
and then it's just a freaking nature type of play right here, man. He gets
right boom.
Yeah. Freaking nature, Heisman-like plays right there, because your average quarterback is not going to be able to back up in the pocket 10 or 15 yards and then all of a sudden just use that space in the field to his advantage, right? I honestly don't think Haynes King is doing that type of versatility or, speedy plays like that. Mm-hmm.
I want to take another look at it. This is like from behind. So this is what he sees. And I think, like you said, it's going to be pass first. It looks like, his receivers are.
It's almost like, it's almost like he used that rollout to his advantage. He saw how aggressive the LSU defense shifted over, and it just created that big gap, like he was parting a sea, right? And so I think he just turned into a ball carrier and saw all that opening.
Look at this gap right here.
Exactly. Okay. And so that's just
QB vision.
Great IQ, great vision. Boom. Hit the hole.
I love that move right there. Boom.
With that much space, don't let anybody touch you. That's easier said than done, but that's what a great athlete does.
Yeah. So that was with his legs. I wanted to showcase his passing as well. This was a touchdown pass to Casey Concepcion. This was a player that we mentioned, like Marcel Reed has to be able to trust. You're good going up against they're good, but in order for you to win, you need to be able to hit these guys here. Yeah. So this one was
dropping back, using his legs, but keeping his eyes upfield. Maybe somebody will, but how do you stop that?
Yeah, literally. So this is another look. The QB vision.
Yep.
He scrambles just a little bit, sees his guy, boom.
He's making his case, dude. He deserves to be up there on that Heisman list, right? He's making almost Johnny football like plays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens for the rest of the season, but they are definitely proven to be one of the best offenses and best teams in the nation right now.
For sure. Top to bottom, offense and defense, great team. So, Casey Concepcion, he had an amazing game. I thought the dagger in this game was by him again. He had a 79 yard punt return.
Mhm.
It stretched the lead to 10 in the third quarter, but you could tell that the game was slipping away from LSU. You could tell they didn't really have a response, or they just lost all their kind of mojo. And then that was kind of it. That's when the fire Brian Kelly's and all the fans started leaving the stadium. That's kind of when that all started going down. So Texas A&M, they have a solid hold of first place in the SEC now. I'm not sure if we'll see them lose another one, even with Texas as the last game on their schedule. LSU has lost 3 out of their last 4, so not a good look. They still have Alabama and Oklahoma on their schedule. So, Aaron, do you think Brian Kelly makes it to the end of the season?
um, quickly answer, no. I don't think Brian Kelly makes the end of the season. With tough opponents still on the schedule, this could turn into a 5 or 6 loss season, and that is not the LSU standard. I'm sure they don't want to normalize, what's happening right now, and so I'm putting him in the hottest of hot seats, Mash.
Yeah.
Put him in the hot seat. If he doesn't find a way for a miracle to happen, goodbye.
Yeah, I know we're recording this early on a Sunday, so by the time this episode comes out, some action could be taken there. Who knows?
Could happen, right?
Yeah. Anyway, that's all we have for today's episode. We're looking forward to week 10 and the Halloween weekend. We have some spectacular matchups ahead. Georgia, Florida, Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, Vandy, Tennessee, Oklahoma. So a lot of great matchups coming up. Tune in on Thursday and get that analysis here on First and Short. So thanks for watching. See you guys soon.